So today we're doing something a little bit different here on the channel. We're taking a look at my vinyl record collection. I have over 250 records here. I've been collecting since I was probably 10 years old, so 16 years. So the majority of my life I've been buying vinyl. I have all of the modern classics in here like Radiohead and My Morning Jacket and Wilco, and all of the essential classics like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and everything in between, all different kinds of genres. I have jazz, metal, funk, soul, rock. Music's always been a huge part of my life. I went to music school. I was in a band for a long time, so I really love music, and I think you can tell. So this might take a little while, a lot of records to get through, so without further ado, let's get started. The way I have everything organized really only makes sense to me, but from right to left, it goes from newest to oldest. There's also genres packed together in there. So in this video, we're going from the right side of my collection to the left. Let's get started with the first record here, and that is Khruangbin Con Todo El Mundo. I think it's pronounced Khruangbin. This record is from Light in the Attic Records, Acetone 92 to 2001. Really great compilation of everything from them. Light in the Attic also did Hansono House, which is a really cool record, basically Japanese late 70s rock and roll. And we have King Cruel's 6 Feet Beneath the Moon, one of my all-time favorite records. I don't love his more recent work, but this record is perfect from front to back. We have Tame Impala's first record here, Inner Speaker, my favorite from them. Then Lucy Dacus's Historian, really great record. Night Shift is an incredible song. Then we have a couple records from Bahamas. I absolutely love Affy. He is one of my favorite musicians. I've got to see him a few times live. Bar Chords is probably my most spun record in this whole collection. You can see it's pretty beat up because of that. I'm a huge fan of Annie Clark and St. Vincent, so I have a few of her records here. Strange Mercy, Actor, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, an absolutely beautiful record. And I have her first LP, Marry Me. Annie Clark is amazing, and I absolutely love her. Speaking of chicks I love, here's Courtney Barnett, Sometimes I Sit and Think, Sometimes I Just Sit. And Girls. This band is not girls, but it's girls. Then we have Dawes. We're All Gonna Die is definitely my favorite record from them, but their newest release, Misadventures of the Doom Scroller, is also incredible. Phosphorescence Muchacho is a really cool Southern-inspired alternative album. Then Grant Lee Phillips' Little Moon. I was really into this guy when I was a lot younger. Then My Morning Jacket, one of my all-time favorite bands. Here is Evil Urges and their first LP, Tennessee Fire. I have some solo Jim James stuff. I'm a huge Jim James fan. I absolutely love his voice and everything about him. His first couple solo records were some of his best work. I also have Uniform Clarity, which I'm not too familiar with. You can see it's still sealed here. Then we have Jack White's first solo record, Blunderbuss. Some of the best work from Jack White, in my opinion. This is a 12-inch EP of Love is Blindness and 16 Saltines from Blunderbuss, which is a really cool third-man pressing. Then we have Perfume Genius. This album's sad. Then we have Cloud Nothing's Attack on Memory. This album's not sad. This album kicks ass. I'm a huge fan of Kings of Leon, especially their early stuff. So this is their first record, Youth and Young Manhood. And they also have Aha Shake Heartbreak, which is their second record. If you're even kind of a fan of Kings of Leon, you have to check out their first couple records. Now we have Father John Misty, Fear Fun. It's a really great record. And this is I Love You Honey Bear, which I also love. This is a third man pressing of his live performance at Third Man Records. Then we have Whitney. This is an album I was really into in high school. And Car Seat Headrest. This is probably his best album in my opinion. Some really great tracks on this. We have The War on Drugs. We have Neon Skyline from Andy Schauf. Andy Schauf is incredibly underrated. We also have The National, Trouble Will Find Me. It's like a modern classic. And A Great Big Pile of Leaves is such a cool band. Kind of math rock, kind of alternative. They're just a big, fat, wet, major seventh chord of a band. Then we have Minus the Bears, Highly Refined Pirates, and There, which is a really cool math rock three-piece. And we have another modern classic, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot from Wilco. Narrow Stairs from Death Cab for Cutie. I'm surprised I don't have more Death Cab records. This is Sam Cohen's Cool It. I actually saw him open up for White Denim, and he signed this for me, so this is a really cool thing to have in the collection. Then we have Ratboys Printer's Devil, one of my favorite records from the last 5 years. Really cool band. And then the Black Keys Rubber Factory, my personal favorite record from the Black Keys. Then I have a few Spoon records here. I'm a huge Spoon fan. We have Ga 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 and Kill the Moonlight and Girls Can Tell. A lot of their really good early stuff. Next we have White Denim. I have a whole stack of White Denim records here, so let's take a closer look at these. If you're not familiar with White Denim, they are a really cool band from Austin, Texas that does all different kinds of stuff, but if you like classic rock, this is the band for you. Every album's a little bit different. This is Last Day of Summer, which I had signed from the band. It's their most jazzy album. Then D is really progressive. Corsicana Lemonade has some really cool southern roots. Stiff is a little bit more pop, but also kind of southern. Really cool record here, by the way. Just I love the design of that one. Next, we're moving on to my Radiohead collection, another big stack that I'd like to take a closer look at. I've been absolutely obsessed with Radiohead lately. I just got the Bend, so that one's still sealed. This is OK Not OK, which is their 20th anniversary of OK Computer. I think OK Computer is probably the best album ever made, and this is such a cool copy. Then we have Kid A, which is another modern classic. I really love all of the care and attention they put into these LPs. Just some really beautiful artwork with every single pressing they do. Here's Amnesiac. Again, Radiohead is just such a cool band. They're all such geniuses, and even the artwork that they use to promote their music is so cool. Here's Hail to the Thief, which is a personal favorite. And of course, I have In Rainbows, another modern classic. And then The King of Limbs, it's okay. This is The Smile. I'm grouping this in with Radiohead because it's Tom York and Johnny Greenwood's new band. Really cool record. Back to the shelf, we have Pavement. This is one of their compilations. Then we have The Violent Femmes, their self-titled absolute classic. Meat Puppets, Up on the Sun, great summertime album. We have Granddaddy, Under the Western Freeway. Dorm Rock, AM 180 is just such a cool song. It's in 28 Days Later. And we have Bjork's Debut. It's called Debut. And Jeff Buckley's Grace. Jeff Buckley was just the most beautiful man ever. Then we have Smog, Knock Knock. It's a late 90s classic in my opinion. We also have a few Modest Mouse records. I really love Modest Mouse. We have the Lonesome Crowded West. This is a cool double copy where the record came in two separate sleeves. We have Pearl Jam's 10 and Tool's Opiate. I'm a huge fan of Tool, one of my favorite bands ever. We also have Undertow and Lotta Rawlis. This record's so cool. I have to show you a closer look. It has a really cool reflective outer and inner cover, and the disc itself has some really beautiful artwork from Alex Gray on both sides. Just one of the coolest records in my collection. So much attention to detail here. Next we have Incubus Science, really cool new metal album, and we also have Morning View from them, which is one of my favorite records of all time. Then we have Sublime, self-titled, another great summer record, and System of a Down's Toxicity. You can see we're kind of transitioning into some of the heavier stuff, Metallica's Ride the Lightning and Black Sabbath's Masters of Reality. After the metal, we get to some of the more soul and hip-hop. This is actually my only hip-hop record. This is the Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest. Here's Bill Withers' Still Bill. Bill Withers, one of the coolest dudes to ever live. Speaking of cool dudes, here's What's Going On by Marvin Gaye and Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. We also have The Temptations, A Song for You, and John Lee Hooker's Live at Solded Prison. We also have some Tom Waits. I am a huge Tom Waits fan. I have Small Change and his first record, Closing Time. He's just one of the coolest guys to ever live. I have a couple Christmas records. I have Elf and a Charlie Brown's Christmas by Vince Guaraldi, which is my favorite Christmas music of all time. This leads us right into our jazz section. Kiefer is a really great lo-fi jazz pianist, and then we move on to some Pat Martino. I'm a huge fan of jazz guitar. I used to study jazz guitar, so you'll see a lot of that in here. Some Pat Metheny. We have some Weather Report. Heavy Weather is an absolute essential for any record collection. We have Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Speaking of essentials, we have a Dizzy Ella and Charlie Parker record, as well as a super old Louis Armstrong record, and one of his later records. And some Joe Pass, who is one of the greatest jazz guitarists of all time. And then we're moving on to my Wes Montgomery section. I'm a huge fan of Wes Montgomery, probably my favorite jazz guitarist. He has some really solid records. The Montgomery Brothers, some of the early stuff he did with his brothers, and a couple all-time classics here. Actually, I have two of Down Here on the Ground. I didn't even know I had two of those. And what's a record collection without some Sinatra? I feel like you have to have Sinatra if you have a record player. And then I have the Rocky soundtrack as we start to transition into more of the 80s stuff. Here's Paul Simon's Graceland, Dire Straits, this is one of my favorite records ever, and we also have Van Morrison's Moondance. Moving on to the next cube, we have Devo, so now we're really getting into the 80s stuff. Even Simple Minds, it's a 12-inch 45. We have some Elvis Costello, absolutely love Elvis Costello. My Aim Is True is some of his best work. This is another essential, London Calling from The Clash. Big David Byrne, big Talking Heads fan, so I have 77 and The Fear of Music, which is such a good record. So good. Also have some Genesis records here. I have quite a few, actually found these at thrift stores over time. Invisible Touch is really great. Some of the early stuff like Nursery Crimes and Duke. We have Abandoned Luncheonette from Daryl Hall and John Oates, and then we have some Men at Work. I feel like this band doesn't get the respect they deserve. Cargo is so cool. This one has this awesome original sticker with the original plastic on it. This album is so good, and so is Business as Usual, their most popular one. We have Meatloaf, Bat Outta Hell, rest in peace Meatloaf. We have some Cars here. Their first record is just so good. I also have their greatest hits in Panorama. The Police, one of my favorite bands, have a few of theirs. Really looking to get Ghost in the Machine. Then I have U2's War. I don't like U2. Don't know why I have it. I have The Pretenders. Chrissy Hynde is a babe. I have some Tom Petty here. And ZZ Top. Eliminator is a classic. And then George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Some Huey Lewis. Some Journey. Don't Stop Believing's on this record. Then we have another one of my bigger collections here. These are my Yes records. I absolutely love Yes. I have their logo tattooed on my chest. They have some of the coolest artwork from back in the day. This is Tales of Topographical Oceans. What a great name for a record. We have their self-titled The Yes album, my personal favorite. I have 2 copies of Close to the Edge for some reason. And I also have Fragile, which is probably their most iconic record. And then Yes songs. Speaking of art, this thing just goes on forever and ever. It is a 3-disc live record that just kicks ass. And speaking of ass, we have Going for the One. Yeah. And from the Yes collection, we're going to move on to my Who collection. I absolutely love The Who, another band that I was just obsessed with for a long time. I have 2 copies of Who's Next, and I have Who Are You as well. 2 copies of Quadrophenia. There's actually a reason I have 2 of these. One of them is an older copy that came with this really great art book. If you're not familiar with Quadrophenia, it is roughly a story about Pete Townshend's life. This is some photography that goes along with that story, but that story was also made into a movie in 1980, which is such a cool movie. I highly recommend it, even if you kind of like The Who. I have the soundtrack from the movie itself right here. I believe the movie is available on Criterion, so if you're looking for a cool movie and you're into The Who, you got to check this out. This is a London Symphony Orchestra version of Tommy. Such a cool release. Came with this really beautiful art book. And the recording is absolutely incredible. It's so cool to hear the classic Who songs played by the London Symphony Orchestra, probably the greatest orchestra in the world. If you're a Who fan, I definitely would recommend picking this copy up. Even the cover for the record itself looks like a pinball machine, and it's embossed, and the colors are great. Next, we have Live at Leeds, one of the best live albums from The Who, and a couple solo ones from Pete Townshend and John Entwistle. Back to the shelf, we have the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced, some Doors record, Morrison's Hotel, and LA Woman. Then we have some Pink Floyd, we have The Wall, obviously, and Dark Side of the Moon. You can't have a record collection without Dark Side of the Moon. We also have a few Zeppelin records. We have Zeppelin 2, Physical Graffiti, and obviously Zeppelin 4. We have some Jeff Beck here, some Rod Stewart with Faces. Rod Stewart, Every Picture Tells a Story. A few Faces records, A Not As Good as a Wink, Ooh La La, and I have 2 copies of Long Player for some reason. I think I got one of these at a thrift store. I see 99 cents on that one there. Next, we're moving on to my Steely Dan collection, another big fat collection that we got to take a closer look at. I have Steely Dan's greatest hits, Gotchow, which is one of my favorites, Pretzel Logic, The Royal Scam, which I got for 99 cents as well. We also have Can't Buy a Thrill, Countdown to Ecstasy, and my personal favorite, Aja, Katie Lied, and then a compilation, Steely Dan Gold. I think I have every single Steely Dan record. Moving to the next cube and onto my biggest collection for any band. This is my Rolling Stones collection. We'll start with Sticky Fingers. This is a really early pressing with the original zipper. You can see Andy Warhol's name right there, right on the tighty whities. Then we have Beggar's Banquet, which is one of my personal favorites. Some of the older stuff here, as well as some of the newer stuff with Emotional Rescue. And then we have our Satanic Majesty's Request, which is a hard name to say, but this has a really cool lenticular cover that I think is pretty rare. I got a lot of these records from my Uncle Mike. Here is Goat's Head Soup. And you'll see on the back, he wrote his name on a lot of these. And he was a huge Rolling Stones fan. So some of these are original mono presses. I don't want to claim that any of these are first presses because I know someone in the comments will tell me I'm wrong. But these records are incredible. I'm so grateful to have so many of the original records from one of my favorite bands, the Rolling Stones. You can see here I have a pretty decent collection, and having mono presses of anything is just so cool. Back to the shelf, we have Golden Earring. This is the record with Radar Love. Then we have Mountain Climbing, as well as some Steppenwolf. It's like my driving music section with Inagata Vida by Iron Butterfly, Traffic, The Low Spark of High-Heeled Boys. This is just such a cool record cover. And then we have Frampton Comes Alive, just an iconic record. Couple more from Frampton here. We have I'm In You, it just makes me uncomfortable. Then we have another pretty big collection here. This is my Humble Pie collection. Let's take a closer look at this. Humble Pie was one of those bands that kind of just disappeared after the 70s. They were popular in the 70s. It was Peter Frampton's band with singer Steve Marriott, who had just an absolutely incredibly powerful voice. And they made some really great records. Here's Rock On, my personal favorite. But they're just one of those classic rock bands that nobody talks about anymore, and I totally think people should be. They absolutely rock. Then I have some Beatles stuff here back on the shelf. This is a compilation. And then I have Abbey Road. I'm definitely lacking on Beatles records. I have a few Bob Dylan records. Again, one of those guys you just have to have in your record collection. Bringing it all back home is great. I have a few Eric Clapton records here too. Slow Hand is the man. And then I have Cream, Wheels of Fire. Just a great album. Have some Southern rock here with the Outlaws, some Greg Allman that leads into the Allman Brothers here. Here's Beginnings, as well as Brothers and Sisters, and Eat a Peach, which is my personal favorite. And we also have some more Southern rock, some Charlie Daniels Band, as well as some Marshall Tucker. Then we have Cat Stevens, who's not necessarily Southern, but he is an incredible songwriter, so I have a lot of his records. I think most of them are over here. We also have the band Stage Fright, which is a great record, as well as their self-titled. We have some Neil Young, which leads into my Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. There's a few records here. Had a big phase with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Then we have Boston's first two albums. I really liked Boston growing up. They are a lot of fun. We also have some Deep Purple over here. There's a reason why they're all the way at the end here. We have some Creedence. And then we have some Elton John just to round off the LPs. And at the very end, I have a couple 45s. I have a White Denim 45, a Steely Dan 45 with Deacon Blues, as well as the White Stripes Fell in Love with a Girl. And finally, Meditations in Affinity. So that is my whole record collection, but before we finish the video, I just want to show you my stereo, how I play all of these records. The turntable is a Pioneer PL30. This is a good middle-of-the-road turntable. I really want a Riga, but I can't really afford one, so I found this Pioneer, which is actually really nice, and I believe I got it for just a few $100. The receiver is a Yamaha RV 501. I got this for $10 way back in the day, and it is a really solid receiver. Has about 70 watts per channel, which is more than enough. I only live in an apartment, so I don't need anything too powerful. That leads me to my speakers, which are a new upgrade for my stereo system, and these are also Yamaha. They are their NS6490s. They have an 8-inch woofer, a 4-inch mid-range, and a 7/8 tweeter. They sound absolutely incredible, perfect for the small space I live in, and I love everything from Yamaha. So there you have it. That's my vinyl record collection. It feels so good to share this with all of you. This is like a part of my soul. I love music so much, and I've been collecting for so long. I feel like out of all the collections I have, I collect everything, games, movies, but vinyl really just is a part of me, and music is just a part of my soul, so it feels really good to share that with you all. If you saw anything in here that really struck your interest, or if you have any music recommendations based on what I have here, please leave that down in the comments below. I'm always looking for new music. And share the video with someone in your life that's really into music, or maybe even someone that collects vinyl. Oh, look, there it goes. Nice. So if you have someone in your life that collects vinyl, maybe they'll see something in here that they want to get for themselves. And please like the video, that always helps. And also subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing a little bit more about music here on the channel. My next video about vinyl and about music will be ranking every Radiohead record, which might be kind of a controversial video, but I've been really into Radiohead lately, and I have some opinions. I have a lot of opinions. But don't forget to subscribe. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.